2001: A Space Odyssey is a movie released in 1968 directed by Stanley Kubrick. It is also the name of a book written by Arthur C. Clarke released a few months later in the spring of '68. The concept for this movie began as a collaboration between Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke, of which the idea for the movie is loosely based off a short story called The Sentinel written by Clarke in 1948. But to say the movie is based off the short story wouldn't quite be correct, as much as the story of 2001 is original. In 1964, Stanley Kubrick met with Clarke about a possible collaboration for a project. As the project began to materialize, Kubrick proposed the idea to write a book first for which the film could be based. Clarke later stated the reason for this was to let their imaginations flow freely, as screenplays have to be precise and describe everything in detail. It was the original intent to have the novel finished and then derive a script for the movie. However, as time went on, the screenplay and the novel began to be written at the same time, with both parties giving feedback on the project. There were times when Clarke would rewrite a scene after seeing some of the work of the film. As the film production moved into full swing, however, Kubrick and Clarke couldn't collaborate on the novel as much as they planned. Eventually, the film was released in 1968 before the release of the book. While the production of the film was taking place, Clarke was trying to finish the book, but wouldn't publish it without the blessings of Kubrick. Kubrick was extremely busy and couldn't attribute much time to read the multiple versions of the manuscript. While both Kubrick and Clarke are attributed a writing credit on the film, Clarke is the only one credited for the book. It would be natural then to have some differences in the novel and the film. One of the differences is the destination for the Discovery. In the novel, the ship used the gravitational fields of Jupiter to boost itself onto Saturn's moon Iapetus, while in the movie the destination was only Jupiter. The reason for this difference was because the effects team working on the film couldn't produce a Saturn that Stanley found convincing enough for the movie. This actually worked out, since a few years after the movie, the space probe Voyager reached Saturn and it was determined Saturn's setting was implausible for the story. It is also interesting to note that the process of slingshooting around a planet to accelerate an object found in the novel was actually performed in 1979 by the Voyager space probes. Another interesting point was during the production of 2001, the moons of Jupiter were only spots of light in the sky. It wasn't until the Voyager space probe flew by the moons in 1979 that these worlds were able to be viewed and studied in depth. These discoveries prompted Clarke to write a sequel to 2001, but instead of continuing the story from the book, the sequel titled 2010: Odyssey 2 followed the story set up by the movie to be more scientifically accurate. The setting for the sequel took place near Jupiter and involved the moon Europa. Since research was conducted on Europa, it served as a great tool for crafting a story in this universe. In a way, Stanley was lucky to avoid Saturn and turned to Jupiter for the sake of the sequels. Clarke went on to write two more books in the series, 2061: Odyssey 3 and 3001: The Final Odyssey. 2010 is so far the only one of the sequels to receive another film adaptation. The movie has a slightly different name than the book, being called 2010: The Year We Made Contact. It came out in 1984, and this time around, Kubrick was not involved in the film. 2001: A Space Odyssey serves as a great influence among the science fiction genre, as well as the scientific community. The movie was released before the first moon landing, and the astronauts of the Apollo 8 mission told Clarke that they were tempted to relay back to Earth a sighting of the monolith, referencing the one found on the moon in the film. Thanks for watching, and check out our other videos.